You're 8 months into the year, you're doing everything right. Like you're posting and you're messaging and you're getting on the calls and you're even following the leaders that your upline suggested that you follow. And you're doing the same things that you were doing back when things were working consistently. Things were growing. And now it's not flat. It's actually going backwards. Here's the part that nobody tells you, and it's not your effort. Well, actually, it's not your effort, but it is where you are putting it that is the problem. Because there are 3 phases that everyone's buying brain must move through before it buys anything. And most women in this business are putting everything they've got into phase 3 and wondering why nobody moves. So not only are there 3 phases, but the 3 phases have to be followed in order. And here's what those leaders never told you. And it's probably because no one ever told them either. The biggest misconception in this whole industry is that if you just keep giving people enough good information, enough value, they'll eventually buy from you. This is why show up more is the worst sales advice in the history of all sales advice ever. Because just showing up more and adding more value will not make them buy. What you need to understand is that information gets processed by the rational part of the brain. And the rational brain is the last phase in the buying decision, not the first, the last. So if things need to go in order and you are talking to the last part and skipping the first part, you can see why you can have an audience that genuinely loves your content. They save it, they share it, they comment, this is so helpful. But yet they never buy ever. And the same thing is happening on your team. Activity that's all aimed at the wrong phase, it can look like energy and it can feel busy and it can feel productive. But friends, it produces almost nothing. I'm Genevieve Scory, and I've spent 2 decades building sales systems for tens of thousands of people before I ever coached a single woman in this industry. And I'll tell you what I've learned, that the ones who plateau are never the ones working the least. They're the ones directing their efforts in the wrong place, and no one is telling them. This is Fix This Grow Fast, a podcast for women who sell and lead, where we prove that effort was never the problem. So here are the 3 phases every brain must run through in order, say it with me, in order before it buys. The primal brain decides one thing. Is this even worth my attention? Like, that's literally the gate, and it's closed. If you don't clear that gate, if the brain doesn't think, oh, this is relevant to me right now, then nothing else happens. No matter how good the product or service is, if you do not get past the gatekeeper, that primal brain, it literally ignores everything else. The emotional brain is where about 80% of the actual decision making goes on. 80%. This is the part that actually does the deciding. And then there's the rational brain. It justifies what the emotional brain already decided. It shows up and its job is to verify the decision and to make you feel smart and good about the decision that you made. This is where the information is required, but not before. Here's the shift. The fix isn't more content. The fix isn't show up more. The fix isn't post more. It never was. That's why this doesn't work. The fix is conversations, a series of intentional, methodical conversations that walk a real person through all 3 phases in order, instead of just talking at the one phase at the very end. And the good news is this means you don't need a bigger audience. It means that you need a daily method that will help you understand these 3 phases and when to use them and how to get through them. I teach something called 333. It's 9 conversations a day, 3 brand new conversations that get started, 3 conversations that move you forward, and 3 that you follow up on. That's it. And by the way, these conversations almost never happen all in one sitting. And if they do, they have to follow these 3 phases. So the good news is you can slow your roll. You can actually enjoy your daily work. So let's break it down. New conversations, right? That's the primal brain. Now here's the key. You're not pitching. You're not presenting. You're literally just connecting at the exact moment that prospect felt something that your product or service can help with. New conversations are never pitches or presentations. Now, the second set of conversations is advancing a conversation. This is the emotional brain. So phase 1, primal brain. No pitching, no presenting. Phase 2 is the emotional brain. This is where I mentioned the decision actually gets made. And follow up. Follow up is the rational green light. It's the conversation that turns a maybe into a yes. And most people quit right before this part. And this is where the actual money is. Now do the math here. 9 conversations a day is more than 250 touch points every single month. Even at a conservative conversion rate, that's not a lucky month anymore. That's stability and predictability. Again, you don't need a bigger audience. You need aimed conversations designed to walk people through the 3 phases of the brain. All right, so let me give you a quick example of this. If we're looking at the primal brain asking, does this deserve my attention? We actually have to talk about the exact moment that your prospect realizes that they have a problem. So your post might look something like, you know that stretch between 3 and 5 p.m. where everyone needs something from you and you literally have nothing left for them? Here's what nobody tells you. So it's not a pitch. It's an exact moment. The moment where somebody is physically and mentally exhausted, the moment that people need things from them, and the moment that they literally have nothing to give. You want to actually name the pain point exactly. Notice that I didn't say, you know how you don't feel energy at the end of the day? That's not going to get through the primal brain. But if you literally just talked about the moment that I experienced yesterday or even today, I'm going to be like, wait, what? The algorithm, my computer, something spying on me. How did you know? And that's the test. The post has got to pass the how did you know test. Now, phase 2, the emotional part of the brain where 80% of the decision making happens. This is where you help her feel that gap a little more deeply. The gap between where she is and where she wants to be. And she's got to see herself in that gap. So it might be something like, I remember when 3 p.m. meant I was going to hit the cookie jar. I used to drive home and have to pull over on the side of the road to take a nap. Now it's the part of the day that I actually have enough energy for. Not because anything got less busy, because I stopped running on empty. So I'm still not pitching and I'm still not describing a product. I'm narrating her desired outcome and I'm letting her picture being that version of herself. That's the emotional decision forming. Yes, I want to be the person at 3 o'clock that stops running on empty. Now, phase 3, the rational or justification part of the buying phases of the brain, wants to know the information. And now only does the information belong in the conversation. Because remember, up until this point, no pitching, no product. So she's emotionally in. Her rational brain just needs permission to feel smart about the decision that she wants to make. It's a 30-second thing in the morning. Here's what changed for me in the first 2 weeks: facts, clarity, and a low risk next step. This is where you finally get to talk about your product details, but only here in phase 3, because the first 2 phases earned you the right to share them here. Now you can understand why you don't want to start in phase 3. Here's my product and here's my info, because if you keep doing that, you're going to keep wondering why nobody is taking you up on your offer. It's because you skipped the part of the decision making that makes her even care. I hope you see, you really don't need a bigger audience. You just need more targeted conversations. In the next episode, I'm going to go deeper into the part that almost everyone gets wrong, and that's the follow-up. Because this is the part that turns a maybe into a yes. So make sure that you are following the podcast and comment on the episode, because one thing I want to do is keep this information free to all of you who'd like to listen. So make sure that you share it with a friend. And if this is the way that you actually do want to think about your business, you want it to be more intentional and effective, less hustle, more clarity, then get on my email list. It's where I go deeper than I can here, and you get to hear information before anyone else does. And the link is in the show notes. Because honestly, you were never behind. You were just aiming your efforts at the wrong thing. This is Fix This Grow Fast. Make the shift. I'll see you next week.